classic ramshackle on a small lot near the Methodist Baptist church we went to. We were Methodists. The church is still there, with services every Sunday, welcoming new generations of the same old families. Now only a few leftover stones and timber stick up out of the brush. People must have helped themselves to the other pieces. Our central heating was a wood stove and a tin barrel. We had to keep putting more and more wood in it to keep the fire going enough to heat the house. The fire glowed so red you could see it through the cracks in the barrel. Once I fell and tripped against the stove, and I charred the whole right side of my face, which got all blistered and later scarred all over. Nobody thought my face would ever be right. But thanks to old Mom, loving home remedies and relentless praying, it all healed, and even the scars are gone today. Another chapter is entitled The Best Possible Use of My Brawny Torso. Tony Mack, the son of a humble sawmill worker, hanged for no good reason in the Jefferson County, Georgia jail, and a mother who raised 5 kids on minimum wages and food stamps in Trenton Mayor section, where poverty and hopelessness led more of my childhood acquaintances into prison than into college, was about to make his own unique contribution to Howard University legacy. It all felt very right. My personal summary of Howard University history. I'm not familiar with many college mottos, but Howard's is, in Latin, veritas utilis, truth and service. Not too lofty, but eloquent and practical. Those words suit the constant message to apply what we learned to the greater good of society. My favorite line in my alma mater is ever bold to battle wrong. And that simply means whatever you see a challenge, don't be afraid to take it on. Aptly forecast my gradual awareness of political audacity as a means to correct society's problem. Home is where they cheer for you. And this is the last excerpt I will read. In Trenton, I was known to all the kids in school and even adults throughout the community for my proficiency in wrestling, baseball, and football. And I would make my mark at Howard in the same 3 sports. In fact, most of the best friends everywhere have been my fellow athletes. And the cosmic link between my Trenton and my Howard experiences was sports. During our spring '86 trip south, we arrived in Orangeburg, South Carolina, early the evening before our game with South Carolina State, and checked into our hotel. I somehow found out there was a party on campus. I went to the bus driver's room to politely ask him if he could drive us down to the party. He said, "Mac, I'm tired. Can you drive a bus?" There's the keys on the dresser. I can drive a bus. I embellished my experience driving an 8-passenger van. I drove a van when I worked in the summer. So I thanked him and took the keys. I rounded everybody up, knocking on everybody's door, and persuaded them to get on the bus. This is a 45-passenger bus, I want you to know. I drove them to the party. I even parked the bus perfectly. We stayed at the party till about midnight. Back at the hotel, safe and sound, we had a nervous moment of shared self-satisfaction, realizing that I could have gotten us all suspended from the team or even from the university if I had gotten lost or had an accident. Thankfully, we made it. It turned out that our excursion made our time in Orangeburg worthwhile, since the next day there was a snowstorm and our game got canceled. I surprised a few people. As much of the student body as could squeeze into the stands cheered me on in the stadium. and I got to be well known on campus. One very outgoing sophomore fellow business major stands out in mind for his public admiration of my football feats, always calling me out, "Hey Mac," every time he saw me. His name was Sean Combs. I had no premonitions about his eventual showbiz career or aliases of Puff Daddy or P. Diddy. I know he skipped a lot of classes, got an early internship with a record company in New York, and disappeared from Howard. A few eventful years later, of course, I remember well that he was once a fan of mine, Sean Puffy Combs. So that kind of depicts some of the excerpts from my book, kind of highlights, in summary, what the book will be about. There's only one other mayor in the history of our city that has done a bio of himself, and that was New York Mayor Dave Dinkins. And Mayor Dinkins did his on his experiences as mayor of New York. So technically there's no other mayor in the history of Trenton that has his career in writing, so that residents can take a look at it and kind of reflect on, what their mayor was like as a citizen, first as a son, as a brother, as a father, and as a mayor. So I thought it was important to do that. There's no real significant time about now other than the fact that these are trying times for people, and I believe they need to be encouraged by someone that was basically left, dealt a bad hand, dealt a very challenging hand from birth, and it didn't stop there. Dealt some politically bad hands. It didn't stop there. Dealt some bad hands as it relates to employment, and it didn't stop there. Was kicked out of the Democratic Party, and it didn't stop there. Was kicked off the Board of Chosen Freeholders, and it didn't stop there. Lost an election as mayor, and it didn't stop there. Family members were deprived of job opportunities because of their affiliation with me, but it didn't stop there. A few years later, ran for the same office, and the rest is history. So you can't give up because you fall down. That's your time to reassess yourself and to do better. So at this time, I'll take a couple of questions.